Juhu, Bombay, December 28, 1974. My dear Tamal Krishna Goswami, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter dated 12/1/74 and have noted the contents carefully. I was extremely pleased to hear your report from your traveling buses. It sounds as if your program is very, very wonderful, and I am very encouraged to hear that such a program is coming along so nicely. I am glad that you have understood the importance of my books, therefore I am stressing it so much. Let everyone take these books. If he simply reads one page, then he is getting something substantial, a real eternal benefit. Or if he hands it over to his friend and he reads one page, the same result is there. So continue these festivals constantly and make them all Krishna conscious. Overflood the whole country by this preaching work. Let the whole United States become Vaishnavas, and then everyone else in the whole world will follow. That is my real ambition. Therefore, your program is very glorious. This is really preaching. Your intelligence is being properly utilized. Now, or in the beginning, you took up the distribution of BTGs and you sold the most. Now you have taken up this van program and you will also be successful in the same way. This preaching spirit will make you recognized by Krishna. There is so much wonderful potential in USA for this type of program. So organize hundreds of such parties. This is fulfilling the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I am very glad to hear that not only you are maintaining such program, but that you want to expand it. Yes, this is our philosophy, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. It means to expand or to increase. Therefore, I strongly encourage you to double your program by getting 3 more buses if you can do it. There's no difficulty. BVT means 50% is for printing books and 50% is for construction of temples. So your buses are all moving temples. Don't worry, there'll be no scarcity of money. Go on with your program and increase more and more. In the end of your letter, you mentioned that people are not very eager to go to temples, but with your program, you're bringing the temples to the people. Yes, this is a very important point. You picked up this idea very nicely of bringing people to the temple, bringing temples to the people. In this way, you will give everyone the opportunity to step in the direction of back to Godhead, back to home. So, you and Vishnu John Maharaj and all your nice brahmacharis continue strongly with great enthusiasm and determination to spread this Krishna consciousness movement all over your country, and Lord Caitanya will certainly be pleased with you. I hope this meets you in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. This letter from Śrīla Prabhupāda is full of valuable instructions for those dedicated to the preaching mission of Lord Caitanya. It contains many essential maxims for the preacher to contemplate, and those maxims may be analyzed as follows. Constancy. For the preaching mission to be successful, it must be carried on uninterruptedly. Internally, the preacher must maintain a strict program of sadhana to ensure his steadiness of purpose. There can be no gap where he lapses into Maya overcome by the modes of material nature. Either lethargy caused by ignorance or unrestrained action due to the mode of passion can cause disruption in one's continuous serving mood. This will disqualify one from being a useful tool in the hands of Lord Caitanya. Externally, the preacher maintains a vigilant guard in his field of preaching. He looks for every opportunity to introduce Krishna consciousness. This constancy of purpose gradually wears down Maya's opposition and establishes the supremacy of Krishna. Another word for constancy, therefore, is determination. Overflood. Teachings of Lord Caitanya opens up the following description. Quote, It is said that in spite of being at the confluence of the river Ganges and Jamuna, Prayag was never overflooded until the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at which time the city was overflooded with love of Krishna." End quote. The ocean's tide is controlled by the moon. When the full moon of Lord Caitanya appeared on the horizon of Bengal, the entire world became overflooded by love of God. As Krishna is present wherever his pure devotees chant his name, similarly, Lord Caitanya is present wherever his pure devotees propagate the Sankirtan movement. By the personal influence of Lord Caitanya, the Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world, just as the flooding waters gradually spread out in all directions, covering all the land, buildings, and people. Similarly, the tidal wave of love of God, inaugurated by the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will gradually cover the entire surface of the earth and force all the inhabitants to taste the nectar of devotional service to Krishna. Therefore, the followers of Lord Caitanya must be very expert in releasing the floodgates by the distribution of unlimited transcendental literatures describing the nectarian topics of Krishna. They should take care to see that no one is spared from receiving the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ambition. A Vaishnava is permitted to be aggressive to achieve his ambition, providing his desire is pure. Docility and preaching go ill together. We should not criticize the aggressive preaching mood of a devotee determined to fulfill Krishna's will, but neither should we confuse the pure ambition of one who is Krishna conscious with the mundane aspirations of fruitive persons. Our goal is not to be free from desires, but for our desires to be pure and sanctioned by Krishna. Srila Prabhupada herein expresses his twofold ambition. First, to transform the entire American population into Vaishnavas. Krishna consciousness is not a sectarian denominational faith, but the eternal state of the pure spirit soul. Prabhupada was not advocating conversion from one faith to another, but a total transformation, freeing the American public from all forms of mundane conditioning and bringing them to their original, pure spiritual natures. Once this had been accomplished, Prabhupada's second ambition was to see the entire population of the world follow the American people's example by taking to Krishna consciousness. Thus, Srila Prabhupada desired no less than to deliver the entire planet. Intelligence. Intelligence is defined as the power to analyze things in proper perspective. I had accepted my spiritual master's advice to concentrate on book distribution and holding festivals, and was using my intelligence to find the best means for carrying out his order. This is the proper use of intelligence, not to put forward one's own ideas, thinking oneself more intelligent than one's own spiritual master. One who does this is no better than a fool. So there are so many intelligent men in the world today, but because their intelligence is misdirected, their actions simply create problems for others. No one can be more intelligent than Lord Brahma, but even he exercised caution before utilizing his intelligence to create the material world. First, one should free oneself of the desire for material opulence and sense gratification by performing austerities. Thus, one's intelligence will become useful for fulfilling Krishna's desire. Expansion. Vardhanam means, quote, to increase, or to expand, end quote, and Anandam Buddhi means the ocean of bliss, end quote. The spiritual master and the Supreme Lord both become unlimitedly happy to see the Krishna consciousness movement expand. This dynamic growth is an aspect of spiritual life that is also present in the spiritual world, where the relationship between Krishna and his pure devotees ever increases. Activities performed in the material world tend to become diminished, but because devotional service is transcendental to the material world, it is unaffected by time and other material circumstances. Recently, one Australian newspaper noted that the Hare Krishna movement is, quote, recession-proof, end quote. While the whole world is experiencing trouble, our movement is expanding by the mercy of Lord Caitanya. Srila Prabhupada was especially pleased to see the book distribution expand. To give him unlimited pleasure, the devotees would try to, quote, double it, end quote, each year, increasing the number of books distributed to twice that of the previous year. If our preaching was based on such solid programs as book distribution and festivals, then there would be no shortage of money. Though he had just completed the conversion of 2 more buses, I had proposed that we double the number by purchasing 3 more, and Prabhupada had not hesitated to immediately sanction another BBT loan to make this possible. Recognition. To draw the attention of Krishna is the goal of spiritual life. The best and easiest way to do this is to preach Krishna consciousness, as the Lord himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 18:69. Nachat tasman manusyesu kashin me priyakritama. Quote, there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear, end quote. If, despite one's shortcomings and personal difficulties, one nevertheless tries to give Krishna consciousness to others, the Lord becomes obliged to such a person and quickly recognizes him. When Lord Brahma completed his penance and meditation for the purpose of material creation, the Lord very much appreciated its efforts and personally came to congratulate Brahma. In that connection, Srila Prabhupada comments, quote, anyone preaching the mission of the Lord in the line of the Brahma Sampradaya is always dear to the Lord, and the Lord, being satisfied with such a preacher of the authorized bhakti cult, shakes hands with him in great satisfaction. End quote. Lord Caitanya's mission. The mission of Lord Caitanya is thus summarized. Pritivichyatyatara nagaradigram sarvatra prachar habe mornam. Quote, the Lord desires that all over the world, everyone in every village and every town know of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Sankirtan movement, end quote. In all of Srila Prabhupada's letters came the repeated encouragement to travel village to village, introducing our transcendental literature. And wherever we could not go personally, the books would find their way on their own, as was the case with the person whom Prabhupada had met in the Tokyo airport. Lord Caitanya himself engaged in traveling village to village and encouraged his followers to do the same. Following in Lord Caitanya's footsteps, Prabhupada never tired of traveling from one country to another, even despite the inconveniences of old age. All of the members of ISKCON, not only the sannyasis, should realize that such traveling is highly beneficial for developing detachment from the bodily conception of life in the form of family, home, etc. Temples should organize regular traveling Sankirtan parties, and everyone should take his turn in traveling out with a party. Just as a nation keeps a list of, quote, reserves, end quote, who may be called into active service at the time of war, those who are not engaged full-time in Sankirtan should be kept on the, quote, reserved list, end quote. And whenever there is a Sankirtan marathon, they should be called into active duty. Sometimes on television or in magazines, we see news coverage of nations at war, and it is not uncommon to see even women and children bearing arms and taking part in the fighting. Similarly, all the members of ISKCON, men and women, young and old, should learn the method of Sankirtan, which they should practice at regular intervals so that when the need arises during our Sankirtan marathons, they will be sufficiently prepared for the, quote, fighting, end quote. Srila Prabhupada considered this traveling, or, quote, bringing the temple to the people, end quote, a very important point. In the Kali Yuga, people are lazy and have little interest in spiritual life. At best, they go to a place of worship once a week, and most do not even do this. A compassionate devotee, seeing the fallen nature of such conditioned souls, brings Krishna to them, and thus everyone is given the opportunity to go back to Godhead. The use of the audiovisual medium is a further step toward reaching every town and village, and thus fulfilling Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu's prophecy.